And hello and good day, and yes, we are back to finish off last year's series that I got too busy to complete. And so we left Wendy and Willow, and that's what they were named, last year when she had laid her eggs, and she even gives us a nice little view of them. Just look at that. Absolutely stunning. And if you need a little bit of a refreshers in what happened last year, don't you worry, I have the last year's videos down in the description of this video. So maybe go have a look at that and then catch up to this. And after laying what I think was 7 eggs on the 3rd of May, Wendy started going into incubation, where she has to sit on the eggs continuously pretty much until they are hatched. And during this time, the male will often bring food, either calling from outside the nest box, where Wendy would hop out, stretch her wings, get some food, and then come back in. Wendy at this time would also, a lot of the time, pop out and get a little bit of feathers and stuff for the nest. Last year, we also had the grey tits. At this point, they were already hatched, so they were way ahead of the blue tits, and they were doing really well. And they only had 4 eggs, and if you remember, there was a bit of dramatics last year, whereas a competitor came in and actually stole some eggs from the nest, reducing the clutch down to 4. Now, thankfully, they caught on to it and managed to hatch 4, but will they fledge? Well, we'll find out those answers all in due course, but at the moment we can see that the chicks are doing really well. Their black pigmentation is starting to come in, a sure sign that feathers are starting to develop, their pin feathers. And I never actually named the grey tits last year. As I said, life got in the way of this series, unfortunately. So this year, I think we'll just call them Mr. and Mrs. Grey Tit. If they come back in 2025, we will surely have to name them. And this is just a reminder that this is from last year, the 2024 season, and this footage is from the 4th of May. And just like the blue tits, the job of a grey tit mom is never over. There's a lot of cleaning of the nest box that continuously has to be done. And this is a very important activity that ensures a healthy nest and healthy chicks. And so on the 4th of May, what was Wendy doing? Well, yeah, you guessed it. She was still incubating, keeping her eggs nice and cozy. Just look at that. She would pop out, as I said, every so often for a bit of food and even bring back just a little bit of fluff sometimes, just to make that nest a little bit softer for the arrival of the chicks. And so we move on swiftly to the 5th of May, and we can see the grey tits chicks are growing at a tremendous pace. Just look at those feathers, even in comparison to yesterday. And a lovely fecal sac. Bet you guys missed these. And Wendy on the 5th of May, yep, once again, curled up in a little ball, incubating her eggs. And so we have to move right on to the 6th, and just look at the growth again. I love seeing the difference a day can make in these chicks' lives. And when there's food, they can grow at tremendous rates, but this is a double-edged sword, as if there's no food, things can go badly very, very quick, as we have found out in previous years. But just look how quickly they can grow. Now, look, as this chick is making a beautiful fecal sac, there is already yellow feathers coming in. They were not there the previous day. And we can see it again here later on in the day on the chest or breast of this chick. And another fecal sac. This angle really gives a good angle at the fecal sacs, I must say. I do often wonder how much of my life I've spent watching at such things, but maybe we won't pull at that thread. But we can see that there is a huge amount of food coming into this nest, And this is great to see, and especially since there is only 4 chicks, which would be a small enough brood for a blue tit or a grey tit for that matter. So that means they are getting extra attention. And moving on to the 8, we can see that the wing feathers are really coming in more and more. And it's just astonishing to me. It never ceases to amaze me. So we haven't visited Wendy in the last few days in relation to these videos. And that's just because she's just curled up in the nest and there isn't a lot going on. So for the next few minutes, we are going to just see the growth of the chicks from the 8th to the 9th to the 10th. Now, I just want to point out an interesting piece of behavior that I always love to see, and that's the parents testing to see which chicks are hungriest. So we can see there's a beautiful green caterpillar brought in that the great hits have timed their clutch with beautifully. And she is trying, or he or she, I can't just see from this angle, is just seeing which chick is hungriest, because the hungriest chick will snatch that caterpillar off them with the most energy, and that will tell them which chick is hungriest. Unfortunately, I have noticed over the years that this has a double-edged sword effect, that if a chick gets too weak to feed, they very quickly don't get fed. And that may sound awful harsh, but in the natural world, it's a way of survival. Because if a chick is sadly a lost cause, well then it's probably not worth the parents' time putting more energy into them, and that time and energy is better spent on a chick that will probably survive. And so on to the 9th. And you can see, just look at the feathers of that chick, the wing feathers and the development it's showing. This is slowly but surely turning out to be a really good news story this year. They are 4 healthy chicks. And just look at those little eyes beginning to open. How adorable. And they're starting to look like great tit chicks already. Did you see the difference between the 10th and the 9th there? They are very quickly going into their old man phase, where they look like grumpy old men. But one thing that never changes is the fecal sacs. And so, if you remember, the fecal sacs is a very neat way that the chicks get their waste outside of the nest box. And that just keeps the nest nice and clean and the chicks nice and healthy. So what about Wendy? Well, on the 11th of May, she gave us an absolutely stunning view of her 7 eggs. Orange speckled eggs, brimming with life, sitting waiting for the day to hatch. And what about the great tit chicks on the 11th also? Well, they are going from strength to strength and have started preening. Just look at this little fella out of the nest cup preening his newly grown feathers. Absolutely fantastic. And just before we wrap up for this update, just look at this chick's next activity. The first wing flapping. My god, these chicks are growing fast. Do yourself a favor and just skim back through the timeline and just watch how much these chicks have grown. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.